Hi, Vivek, you would profess to be a conservative, correct?
I'm a proud conservative.
If you are an Indian, a Hindu, coming from a different culture, different religion than those who founded this country, those who grew this country, built this country, made this country the beautiful thing that it is today, what are you conserving? You are bringing change. I'll be 100% honest with you. Christianity is the one truth. Jesus Christ is God, and there is no other God. He is part of the Holy Trinity, and any other God is a demon, and it's false. How can you represent the constituents of Ohio who are 64% Christian if you are not a part of that faith?
Like I said, I'm not here to justify my faith to you any more than you are to me, but what I do share is the value set this country was founded on. And I think that it's really important that we not reinvent the founding of this country and what it was actually all about. The founding fathers, they had an opportunity to write a religious code just like most other nations in human history. All right, founded either on a monarch or a particular faith or a particular lineage. That's where most nations in human history are founded. Not America. We are the only country in the human history where there is a set of civic ideals that brought together a divided polyglot group of people 250 years ago, where freedom of conscience was a core belief set of our founding fathers, all the way to Thomas Jefferson. You know who he is? You know what document he signed?
The Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, and what was his belief system?
He was a deist.
He was a deist. Our third president, the man who signed this nation into existence, was a deist. Do you know who Benjamin Franklin is?
Yes.
Do you know what his belief system was?
He was Quaker, yes.
He was also a deist, similar to Thomas Jefferson. So what I think that we often do is we talk about U.S. history. I have a better suggestion. Let's actually consider reading U.S. history. Consider studying U.S. history. Learn the founding of our country, and that's what made our founders, I believe, the most extraordinary people known to the history of man. We would do well to actually respect their legacy rather than to reinvent some sort of imitative version of every other nation in human history. That's not us. I'm sorry, that's what makes America great, and that's why I am proud to be an American. This is the country that I will die fighting for if I have to, because it stands for those ideals, and that's why we're here.
Right, so
keep praying and pledge allegiance to the flag, my friend. Thank you.
Of course, Christ is king, but my response to that would be the same way that my church would let a practicing Hindu, a practicing Muslim, a practicing Jew come in and enter and worship with us on a Sunday morning. That person would not be allowed membership. And I'm not saying don't give other religions citizenship. I'm just saying you can have freedom of religion in an extremely religious environment. And that is what our founding fathers intended. If you look at the structure of our government, it is a replication, a mirror of the structure of Reformed churches in America in that time.
Absolutely. I think our nation was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. The question is, what are those values? They're the values enshrined in the Ten Commandments. Do we share those values in common? You're darn right we do. And I think that people of most faiths across this country share those values in common. What we're failing to do is actually standing for those values in the government as it actually runs. And so, what I suggest is study U.S. history, study what made the country great. And if you think Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin Franklin were not eligible to be founders or leaders of the country because they were deists, then you and I respectfully have a difference of opinion. And yet the beauty of our country is we're still able to have that difference of opinion and still call ourselves fellow citizens. Thank you, my friend, all right?
Thank you very much, Vivek. Have a great rest of your day. God bless you. Christ is king.
Thank you, my man, all right? Keep praying.
Amen. Christ is king. So I am very privileged to be here and be joined by the young man in that clip, a man by the name of Jeremy Carl. Jeremy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I am doing good. It's a beautiful day. I just wanted to open with that clip, give a bit of a refresher on kind of what happened there, and thought it was an excellent clip. So why don't you tell me what led up to that?
Yeah. So originally it was just going to be, I was going to be attending the Charlie Kirk event that was going to be happening here at Montana State University with my dad. And then obviously Charlie Kirk was shot and murdered. He was replaced, kind of to my dismay, by Vivek Ramaswamy, who is, I don't really think, representative of myself or my beliefs. And my dad ended up being busy, and so he wasn't able to go either. But I decided that, I would still go. And pretty much my entire intention of going was to just be able to question Vivek on his religious beliefs, because I don't feel that he belongs representing us, because he's not one of us. And so I went and challenged him. And I went up there and I just kind of prayed for courage and for the Lord to speak. And yeah, I mean, I just called him out on, he'd been, you know, quoting, he made references to Bible stories, talked about faith, prayer, God, in his speech when talking about the identity of this country. Which God is he praying to? Which God is he talking about? What faith does he keep referencing? And so I just felt the need to call him out on that, as well as many other Christians that night. So yeah.
Awesome. So I guess a little bit of intro. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're in high school, right?
Yeah, so I'm a junior. I go to public high school here in Bozeman, Montana. It's if for those of you who don't know, it's like a town of about 50,000 people in the south western corner of the state. Nice little place, and we have a big college here, so we get a lot of good events like that where we're able to politically interact. I recently have become a lot more interested in just being involved with my church and the faith, and just kind of boldly proclaiming what I know to be true. And so my tolerance for this kind of stuff is waning, and so my urge to fight for what I believe in increases along with that.
Amen. Well, man, God bless that. So you are a public high school student. How does a public high school student become? This is normally a bad term to say radicalized, but I mean this in a good way. Become radicalized for like the Christian faith, right? To become passionate and on fire for Christianity, for conservative values. How does that happen?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of factors at play. So I was born and raised in California in a very like liberal area, and so that kind of from first part, I was raised in a conservative family to two excellent parents. And so they instilled good values in me. And then I was going to public school in a town that I remember we were there in 2016. It went like 96% for Hillary Clinton or something. So like incredibly liberal. And so these kind of things radicalize you when you're even just a very young child and you're taking part in this environment and you know you're being fed propaganda in elementary school. And everybody around you is brainwashed. It's absurd. And then we came out here. We moved to Montana eventually because it just became just so bad over there. And my parents, continuing to pour good influence on me. We started attending a PCA church, which had a lot of really good influence on me. And I just got to know a lot of people who were like just very knowledgeable in the faith. And my dad started showing me podcasters and people on Twitter that I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with, like Brian Salve and Douglas Wilson. He showed me, and I started reading his stuff and all these kinds of people. And eventually that leads into people like Andrew Isker and CJ Angle, if you're familiar. And so, slowly it's like this rabbit hole, and you get kind of to the smaller corners and the more radical people, and you listen to their stuff, you read their stuff, and it kind of radicalizes you. And throughout all this time, you're in public high school where nobody holds the same set of values and beliefs as you. And so it's every day, everywhere you go is kind of a war. And so you learn how to fight. And so I think that is really key for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, it's certainly encouraging. I would say I was not personally kind of pushed more towards becoming what most people would consider radical or, extreme, but really just taking my faith super seriously and applying it even to the political sphere until a bit later in life. I'm 31 now. And so, mid to upper 20s. And so seeing something in high school really latch onto that, I think is just really encouraging. Would you say, have you noticed, is it more common among your peers? Are you starting to notice these things among people your age, or do you feel kind of isolated in it, like it's just you, or is it more of like a growing movement among your age?
Yeah, it's definitely a growing movement among my age. I mean, people, as a kid, you have a natural kind of tendency to resist authority. And so when the authority is this very effeminate, liberal, authority pushing propaganda, it makes you very angry, because especially as a young man, you don't like, naturally just have a natural, whether you know it or not, you have a natural tendency to like really dislike just the public school setting and kind of the way that's set up. And so what a lot of kids are looking for is they don't actually know why they're angry. They just kind of know that they are angry. And so they do edgy stuff, and they have kind of edgy beliefs, but not really for any good reason. But as soon as somebody actually says what they have been waiting to hear, they instantly latch onto that, whether they know they've been waiting to hear it or not. A good example of that is like I've recently, the last couple months, started a Bible study with a bunch of young boys from my church. who are they're like a little earlier on in high school or late middle school, and they were angry, but they weren't like super, serious about their faith or knowledgeable
Mhm.
about it and didn't take it very seriously. And they were just waiting for somebody to hear, the answer is Jesus Christ. Um,
Mhm.
the answer is not like, be some like hyper racist or, you know, just be angry about everything and live a miserable life. The answer is Jesus Christ and kind of learning the true truth of Christianity, not the hippie Jesus who, smokes weed and loves everybody. So,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's awesome. So you're diving into these things. You're certainly getting exposed to some really good stuff. I mean, all those guys that you listed are awesome. No Brian, CJ, and Andrew. Those guys are awesome. You're listening to that stuff, and you see Vivek is coming, and so you're getting geared up. Tell me a little bit. What was that like getting ready to go? Your dad's not able to go with you now, and so you're going to go to this event by yourself, and even end up speaking. So what was it like from that point until you actually got up to take the mic?
yeah, it was a little bit nerve wracking at first, and I eventually kind of comforted it. I remember on the way there in the car, I was listening to Onward Christian Soldiers or something like that, just one of my
Heck
favorite.
yeah, man.
Kind of just spur me on, and I ended up like getting to skip like the line because I had some student ticket or something like that, and I was kind of just sitting there in my seat. Our governor Greg Gianforte gave a really great kind of faith based talk, which was ironic leading into Vivek's entrance. And then as I was in my seat, I was becoming very like unsteady, and I wasn't sure if they were going to have like the open mic thing because it didn't look like
Mhm.
they were. And I was I was like literally almost physically shaking a little bit. And then I prayed and I calmed myself. And then when they announced they were going to have like the open mics, I just went up. I was like, this is my chance. And then there were 3 or 4 other people that had come and asked questions before me along the same lines. And Vivek was starting to get very angry. And he kind of played all of his cards. And so by the time it got to me, I was able to kind of really like he got mad, as I'm sure you saw in the clip.
Yeah.
And I could tell he was getting mad, which I knew I would benefit from if I got to ask him a question. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the question you asked was, especially that initial question. I thought it was great. I mean, you lead in with Jesus Christ is God. He's the only true God. All other gods are demons. And just to point blank ask him, how can you as a Hindu represent a Christian people?
Right.
I feel like that was such a good question, and I certainly have my opinions on his answer, but I want to hear from you. Do you feel like he actually answered your question, or?
Oh, definitely not. No, I mean he gave it was really easy for me honestly because he reacted the same way that everybody I go to school with, teachers and
Mhm.
peers that disagree with me do. It's like the same. Like I've not had this conversation with somebody without somebody bringing up that Thomas Jefferson was a deist. Like, yeah, I get Thomas Jefferson was a deist, but I think I saw it might have been you. I don't remember who it was. Somebody tweeted like, yeah, Thomas Jefferson was a heretic, but like he was a Christian heretic.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, I think that was
and
my quote
that's
tweet on it.
that's very relevant. And I wish I'd kind of thought of that talking point when he initially said that. But yeah, I mean, he completely dodged the question. He didn't address the fact that significantly more than half of his state are
Mhm.
Christians. In he just has a very different view for America because of his religious beliefs and his background are so drastically different from ours. And so, yeah, he totally dodged every question I made. He didn't answer what he's conserving. He didn't answer how he can represent Ohio. He said, I'm not here to justify my faith any more than you are to yours. Well, I am here to justify my faith.
Yeah, I know, that was literally what I thought. I was like,
Yeah.
well, but
Yeah, and then-
I thought it was so ironic. I lost my train of thought, but I thought it was just so ironic that he brought up like Thomas Jefferson, and then he went into say the statement that really stood out to me was he's like, I've got a great idea. Why not, instead of reinventing American history, why don't we actually read American history?
Right.
And that statement is just so ironic to me because if you actually read the founders, if you read even literature around the founding, you find out that they were distinctly Christian, and the society that they were attempting to set up was a distinctly Christian society. to the point where Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin, right? The two that everybody loves to throw out, Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin, they were functionally Christian in the sense that they were not of a different religion. They were Christian heretics, but they were still Christians, right? They still affirmed the importance of the Christian worldview, of the Christian moral ethic. Like everything about them was fundamentally Christian in a way that is different than Hinduism, right? Or Islam or Judaism, right? And he threw out the Judeo-Christian phrase, which is, we hold the Judeo-Christian ethics, but we'll get to that. But I just thought that was so ironic because you read Thomas Jefferson, you read Benjamin Franklin, and they're constantly lauding Christianity. They wanted to live in a Christian society. Benjamin Franklin was incredibly well known for his donations to Christian churches. And in fact, he regularly went to George Whitefield revivals.
Interesting.
And he would tell this story about how he would not bring any money because he knew after hearing George Whitefield preach that he would want to donate to the ministry so that it could continue going on. And he would go, this guy's going to bankrupt me. And so what he would do is he would continue to write IOUs to George Whitefield after every sermon. And he did fulfill those IOUs. But I mean, they were Christian men in the sense that they were not of any other religion.
Yeah.
They were fundamentally different.
Absolutely. And I the thing that really stood out to me about Vivek's response is, he was just so incredibly condescending. And it was the end of the night and he was clearly, you could just tell he was just angry. He's like,
who are all these Christian kids that are coming and attacking me?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, well, do you actually know, like, do you know what the Declaration of Independence is? Do you know who Thomas Jefferson is? Like, he's asking these very passive aggressive questions that somebody who's like, clearly also a young man, it just shows like such a lack of character from him. And it kind of shows that like under pressure, this guy is not the same as us. He is not like the fact that it's more than a religious difference. And I'm not saying it's a racial difference. I'm saying that this religious difference, it influences his entire life, right? And every single thing, the way he does, right? It's more than just him not being Christian, right? He talks about the 10 Commandments. How about thou shalt have no other gods before me? And so he's LARPing on this idea of like, oh, Hindus and Christians have, family ideals. And I'm actually a monotheistic Hindu.
Yeah, I saw that was a different young guy.
Yeah.
Talked about that. And I'm probably going to butcher this, but Vivek basically compared the Holy Trinity to the millions, I think it's 330 million Hindu gods or something like that, and like, well, I still am a monotheist, it's like the Trinity. And yeah, that was just absolutely sickening.
Yeah. That moment set me off. After I was like halfway, I've been like through making it to the front of the line at that point. And I remember when he said that, I was just like, wow, this is like, he's made it like, now it's a very serious thing. Now he's like blatantly just insulting Christianity. Don't ever compare the Holy Trinity to, your millions of, fiend deities that are just, completely, awful. Right. And that was like, we are really going to elect somebody. This stood out to me. Like, we're really going to elect somebody that is insulting Christianity on the world stage. And we're going to elect him in a state that's a red state that has 64% of the people that live there are Christian. And we are going to let we're going to let that guy run. Like, it's unreal. It's crazy. He's just blatantly insulting Christianity.
Yeah. And it's Vivek. I've described Vivek for a while now as, he's just kind of the ultimate grifter.
Yeah.
And I think you can clearly see it in interactions like this, where you listen to him talk and it's almost like listening to a Mormon talk. I don't know how many conversations you've had with like a Mormon, but one of the things that the Mormons do constantly is they try and go, well, look, I'm a Christian too. Look at how similar we are. Look at all these things we agree on. It's like, well, no, we actually don't. You deny fundamental principles of Christianity. You're not Christian. You're a different religion. And Vivek does a very similar thing. And he did it I haven't gotten to watch the full thing, but at least in the question and answer section, I saw him do it a couple times of like comparing all of his demon gods that he worships with the Holy Trinity. Like, well, I'm still a monotheist. I've known some Hindus. I have never known one that has ever claimed to be a monotheist. Like,
Yeah,
they're
that was
all
so weird.
open that they're polytheistic. They might worship one god above the others. They might believe that some of their gods are different representations of, maybe the same being representing itself differently. There's variation there, but I've never heard one claim to be a monotheist.
Right.
And then to even say like, oh, well, yeah, it was founded on the 10 Commandments. Obviously, we believe the 10 Commandments. It's just he's grifting because he disagrees. Like, he cannot agree as a Hindu with the first table of the law. You shall have no other gods before me. Right. You shall not make any graven images. Do not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Honor the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Right. Like, he completely has to throw out the whole first table of the law.
Yeah.
And it's just, he's such a grifter in that sense of trying to appear as Christian as possible.
Right.
And he's not.
Of course. Yeah. And it's in a very intelligent way that he knows exactly what he's doing. He's getting votes. And that's what it is. If he doesn't put on that persona, if he doesn't masquerade as a Christian, as somebody else, I think, who asked him said, he's masquerading as a Christian because he knows that if he is, actually open about his faith, that nobody's going to support him. Hopefully, one would hope at least. And the thing is that I wonder where he actually ends up lying, because if he's claiming to be a monotheist and is trying to associate so much with Christianity, I wonder how Hindus feel about him. I'd love to speak to somebody who's on the other side. Do they accept him? Is he just he's trying to come to our side and we're saying, no, you're not on our team. And he goes back to the Hindus no, you just disgraced our religion. I'm genuinely curious, where.
Yeah. I'm interested. That is an interesting question. I hadn't thought about that. I'm not sure. I don't know whether Hinduism has kind of a fundamentalist branch or not.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? Obviously on the internet, as whenever you insult, a Hindu, you're going to get massive amounts of Hindus just going and running to his defense. It makes my day. It's hilarious. But
I know it's so funny, some of the DMs that I've gotten from different Hindus and stuff. I'm like, oh.
But hey, it's engagement, so
yeah, it's definitely engagement,
right? And so I just just the way that I couldn't get over just him that night. First, spending an entire speech talking about the identity of what it means to be an American, while actually talking about the religious aspects of that, without actually diving into what that means. He's willing to say God, willing to say faith and prayer, but he's not willing to say what faith, what God, and who he's praying to, as I said before. And then going from that to then multiple times, just saying stuff that is just such an offense to Christianity, and such a disgrace.
Yeah, and I think that's dead on. Just the LARPing as a Christian and grifting off of that. It's certainly, the things he says are just outright insulting. And the other thing I noticed that he kind of did in his answer to you, and I saw him do it a couple other times as well, is Vivek loves to peddle this idea. I'd love to get your opinion on it, of America is an idea. That, America is just this grand lauded idea, and we all agree on that. And that's kind of, I think that's what he was kind of getting at when he was talking about the 10 Commandments. Obviously, we, all of these various religions and these beliefs in America, we all agree on the Judeo-Christian ethic of, America is this grand idea. And so what do you think about that he's peddling that all the time? Is America just an idea? Because I have lots of thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is obviously an incredibly common belief that's, understood by pretty much all liberals, many conservatives, and even many Christians, and even many Christians who are proud Americans. And I would completely disagree with it, because America is a lot of things. An idea would be part of America and its founding, but America is more than that, right? It's this land that we have this manifest destiny to conquer. It is a set of religious morals and religious groundings, right, that all of our founding fathers shared, and everybody who fought relentlessly in the Revolutionary War shared. And it's not an idea; it's a people too. I think that obviously we should not discriminate based on race. However, there is an American race, there is an American people ethnically. That's a thing, and so to claim that it's just merely an idea, some concept, is showing exactly the issue that we have with supporting people who don't have any relation to that, to what it actually is to be American at all, because he comes in, he doesn't know what America is. He talks about assimilation. How are you assimilating if you're still practicing the same religion? Because I love assimilation. I'm a huge fan. Come here, assimilate, fully assimilate. The most important thing that you assimilate to is becoming a Protestant.
Yeah.
You can't be, there's no point. Every bit of our culture, what it means to be an American, everything, the hard work, the American dream, property rights, all these things come from Protestant Christianity. And so in order to assimilate and join this culture and have the family values and all this kind of stuff that he was talking about, it all finds its core at Protestant Christianity. And so for him to then come in and say he's assimilated and say that anybody can be an American as long as they assimilate is nonsense, because he hasn't even assimilated, and it shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of put on the skin suit of assimilation.
Right.
I mean, there's the famous picture of him in the Texas colored jackets with the cowboy hat. I mean, like he's a fan of doing like the skin suit assimilation. But I think you're right. The America is an idea. Well, what makes a nation? An idea is certainly part of it. So what was the idea that founded America? Well, it was Protestant Anglo-Saxon Christianity.
Of course.
That was the identity. I've been doing a lot of thinking on this, because you're right. It's so common in churches. It's so common in our political sphere, all across the board, that our nation is just an idea. And fundamentally, that doesn't work. A nation is a homeland, and a homeland is a people, it's a place, and it's a shared set of beliefs.
Yeah.
You have to have that. And if you remove any one of those, you don't have your homeland anymore. And we can view it in a smaller scale. I was thinking about this the other day. You can view it in a smaller scale. So I live in northern Iowa right now, but I was raised in western South Dakota in the Black Hills.
Okay.
That's where I was born. I lived 29 years of my life there. And then my wife and my kids and I, we moved out here, took a job as a pastor out here in northern Iowa. And I was thinking about it. And if I were to take all of the people I grew up around, all my family, all my friends and everything, and move them here to northern Iowa, would this now be my home? Like, would, in the deepest sense, would it be my home? Well, partly, in part because people are part of what make up your home, right? And they still believe all the same things, right? We're still friends, but we are still tied to a land as well.
Absolutely.
So no, in that sense, it wouldn't fully be my home. In the same sense, you could say if I moved back to the Black Hills of South Dakota, it's the exact same place. It's just like when I grew up there. They're in Little Spearfish, South Dakota, the same coffee shops I love to go to, the same, Walmart that I would ride my bike to all the time. Right. The exact same place, but all the people are gone. Is that still my home? Well, kind of. Right. It's still the land, but it's missing something because it's missing the people. And you can run that experiment in a lot of different ways. Let's say all the people are the same, but they're all now practicing Muslims.
Yeah.
Is it still my home? Well, no. I mean, partly it's the same people that I love. It's the same place, but it's a different belief system now, which fundamentally alters things. And so I think it's retarded to say that our nation is just an idea. No, a nation is a people, a place, and an idea. And they always want to take just that one, the idea, and they want to try and take it and twist it and make the idea something that it wasn't. What was the idea that America was founded on? It was Anglo-Saxon Protestant Christianity.
Of course.
And if you're not going to assimilate to that, and not everyone has to convert to that either. I mean, everyone should. Okay. As a Christian, as a pastor, everyone needs to convert to it. Okay. But take your Thomas Jeffersons, your Ben Franklins, right? The people of that day that were not Orthodox practicing, Protestant Christians. Mm-hmm. They still were part of the culture because they bought into that identity, even though they didn't personally convert.
Yeah, exactly. And it reminds me, and this is something I kind of hit on in my response to him. And this idea of assimilation is so key, and kind of partaking in the culture. And obviously you're not going to have a 100% conversion rate, but that is the idea with America. That in the same way that we have in a church, anybody is welcome into the doors with hopes that they would then assimilate, with hopes that they would then convert. Anybody is welcome into our country with hopes that they would assimilate. And so that doesn't mean that we can just open the floodgates. And that's where Vivek gets it wrong. Is he genuinely, I don't think he understands that if we let in 1 million Indian Hindus, they are not all going to assimilate, because when you start to let in people to assimilate at the level that we do in modern America, then none of them are going to assimilate, because then they can just create kind of cultural and religious enclaves that are completely separate from our society. And now what do we have? We have infighting, we have conflict, we have no unity. And America is now reduced to the idea of being an idea as opposed to an identity.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, that it's now been reduced to the idea of just being an idea. Because, I mean, I heard Tucker Carlson ask this question, and I mean, it really is a good question. What is the unifying factor of the United States of America right now? What actually are we unified on? And I agree with Tucker. He said he can't think of anything, and I can't think of anything that across the board Americans are unified on.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
You know, and inherently you can't have a nation if you're not united.
Right. And the uniting thing is always faith. It is like, you can't have a uniting principle that comes from anything else, because faith can be very, I hate to use the word, but universal in a sense, in that, like, the same faith that somebody, if you look at the 13 colonies, that somebody in, Rhode Island had, is the same faith that somebody in Virginia had. And they were kind of unified by that. And they made an appeal to heaven together, to then, fight back against the tyranny. And they were united by this idea of, like, an oppressive church that is, not doing a good thing. If you look at the Pilgrims, the Puritans, when they first came over, right, an oppressive church. And so they came over to start their own nation because they were united by this idea of this faith. And you have people coming from different backgrounds. You have Dutch and English people at that time. And then obviously America expands. You're getting Germans, Dutch, English, and all sorts of people like that. And so, yeah, you have to have this unifying idea. Otherwise, you're just going to have constant infighting. And you can grow your nation through extremely regulated immigration, which then allows for assimilation for people to join that idea, or join that unifying faith. But that's not what we're doing in America, and it's completely out of control. We've completely lost control.
Yeah, because I mean, we've reduced the identity of what we actually believe, and then we've started replacing the people with people who don't actually hold anything in common with what we believe, right? And so when you have a clash of worldviews, the answer is not to just go, oh, well, everybody get along. Like, you actually have to identify, well, what's good and what's wrong. When the British first went into India, do you know what the practice of sati is?
I'm not familiar with it, no.
So when the British colonizers went in, and I say colonizers there is a good thing.
Right.
When they went into India, the practice in India, their culture was, when a man died, they would burn his widow alive on the funeral pyre.
His will, you said?
His widow.
Oh, widow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, they would burn his wife alive on the funeral pyre, and it was called the practice of sati. And the English settlers were rightly appalled by this, and the Indians said, well, that's our culture. You have to respect, this is who we are. You have to respect our practice. And so I love it. The British soldiers built gallows, and they said, okay, you want us to respect your culture. Well, you're going to respect ours. And in our culture, we hang men who murder widows. And so anyone who burns, someone's wife after they die will be hanged the same day. And it's similar to when the Spanish conquistadors went in and found the Aztecs just utter evil demon worship. We have to get this idea out of our head that all cultures are equal. The Spanish conquistadors came in and they said, sorry, the human sacrifices are going to stop.
Right.
You don't get to do that. And in the same way, like, we're importing millions of people into our nation that have truly wicked ideologies. It's not just that they disagree with American ideologies. It would be cultural suicide to import millions of people who even just disagreed with who we are as Americans.
Right.
That would be cultural suicide. But we're not just doing that. We are importing people who have genuinely evil ideologies, who worship demons, who are all for evil practices. And you can't do that and survive.
100%. Yeah. And all cultures are absolutely not equal. And I think what you see, that what really sets American European culture apart is that even though Christianity does not come from that area,
Mhm.
Europe and America have had that culture has had the longest amount of time being influenced and radically changed by Christianity. Like
Mhm.
in the time of starting with Constantine, there was a massive radical change. Like Europe, people don't really think about this, but like prior to the Romans, Europe was like very barbaric
Yeah.
and like almost similar to like Native American tribes. Not as bad,
Mhm.
but similar. And after the civilization, like Romans brought civilization to the European frontier, and then eventually Christianity, Europe underwent a radical change. And it's been influenced by Christianity for almost 2,000 years.
Yeah.
And it is unique in that sense. And so obviously, like European culture is not this perfect godly thing, but it is superior and does justify, like you were just saying, like colonization. And then in terms of what you're saying about like, oh, we're going to respect your culture, you have to respect ours. This idea of like freedom of religion as understood by modern Americans, where you just have freedom of religion. If it says it in your holy book, you can do it. What I always bring up to people is that if we were to allow a Muslim, for example, to have freedom of religion as you understand it, they would be allowed to rape you. They'd be allowed to kill you. They would be allowed to do whatever they want because look, you see here in their holy book that it justifies doing all those things to anybody who's not a Muslim and does not convert when you ask them to. And, evangelize by the sword. That's what they do. They just evangelize and rape and pillage and plunder. And that is their religion, literally. Like that's
Mhm.
what is justified and they're told is good and told they should do. So you want to give them freedom of religion, make rape legal, make murder legal, because I would hate to oppress our Muslim friends from, practicing their great, religion.
Well, I get such a kick out of the people that are like, "Oh no, Christian nationalism is the greatest threat facing our nation right now," and I'm like, "Really? We got Dearborn, Michigan.
Dearborn, yeah.
We have Dearborn, Michigan, and we've got I live just a couple hours south of Minneapolis. I'm like, when was the last time you actually went to Minneapolis, Minnesota? Like, it's insane. It is Somalia. It's crazy. We have to go up there regularly. My son has some health issues, and that's where his treatment is. So we got to go up there about once a month. And I mean, we used to, even just a couple, just like a year and a half ago, we used to, maybe wouldn't do stuff in downtown. Like we never went downtown Minneapolis, but even in some of the suburbs and everything, like there were little bookshops and coffee shops and like, yeah, let's go to a bookstore. Let's buy buy our kids like a Dr. Seuss book or something, and that's done. We can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like we cannot do that. It's get in, go to the hospital, have the appointment, and then literally drive straight out. Like you don't stop anywhere. You get gas before. You make sure you have enough gas in order to go in there. I mean, it's insanity. And we've got complete cultural breakdown. And all anyone wants to talk about is, oh, these Christians want to impose their values. And it's so funny. I love to tell people, I'm like, look, if we got across the board Christian nationalism, just Christianity is, upheld and established and just lauded. We are a Christian people. There would be more true freedom. There would be more true morality, right? Like there would not be the oppression that you see in places like Dearborn. There would not be the evil that you see in places like Minneapolis.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have the audacity, as you just said, to talk about like us instilling our values, pushing our values on them. There is no world that exists where the group in power is not in some way pushing their values, right? Like,
exactly.
And every
all
state,
moral.
Exactly. And every state has a God. Like, whether or not America, in its current state, I would not say America worships like the God who is the Lord, our God, like the triune God. In our current state, we absolutely don't. And so our God is kind of secularism. I've been reading Douglas Wilson's book on this, Mere Christendom, and he brings up such great points. It's that like you can't have a world in which the people in authority are not in some way, whether they mean to or not, imposing their morals. And as somebody who partakes in the public school system, let me tell you, they impose their morals. They impose their religion that is, sodomy, their religion that is anti-white racism. All these religions, these are the ideas that they're pushing. The only two things that happen in American history are segregation and slavery. And that's, what we're taught. And that's their religion. They're pushing that on us. And so honestly, I don't have to justify myself when I say that we should be the ones in the position of power pushing our religion, not pushing it in an aggressive way, but just being able to kind of achieve this Christian nationalism, as we say, because at the end of the day, we are the one truth. We are right. Like there isn't
Mhm.
any reason that we shouldn't be. And I don't feel like there's a need to justify that. But yeah,
Yeah,
secularism.
well, I mean, even what Vivek said, where he's like, "Oh, we all kind of share the values of the Ten Commandments." Well, that's nonsense.
Yeah.
The only group that shares the values of the Ten Commandments are Christians,
Amen. Yeah.
right? So if we want the Ten Commandments to be upheld within our land as moral and just and righteous, we as Christians are the one who have to do that.
Exactly.
The Hindus aren't going to do that. You know, if Vivek gets elected, you know, there in Ohio, he's not going to uphold the values of the Ten Commandments. He's going to uphold the values of H-1Bs.
Yeah. And that reminds me, he said towards the end, after he was talking about the Ten Commandments, he said, we've lost fighting for that in the government. So that's what we actually need to do.
Yeah, so he's a Christian nationalist.
Why are we voting for a Hindu? Right? If you agree that Judeo-Christian, as he said, values are what founded this country, then and we need to be fighting for that in the civil magistrate, then how come you are running as a Republican in a Christian state while you're Hindu? How are you going to, you're not going to fight for those because they're not your beliefs at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I think we have to recognize that. We have to be willing to say that. I mean, everyone's so afraid of being called racist or bigoted or anything like that. And I don't know where you're at, but I'm definitely at a point in my life where I just don't care.
No, embrace it. Yeah.
I do not care what names people call me at all anymore. You know, you want to call me bigoted, that's okay. Whatever. You want to call me racist, whatever. Like, actually deal with what I'm saying. Actually deal with what my argument. You know, those I call them the shut up terms, because all those terms do is they just want you to be quiet, shut up, stop talking, stop saying what you're saying. We're gonna call you a Nazi. You know, it's like
they want to classify these things as like a mental illness, and so they come up with these terms and everything like Islamophobia, homophobia. First of all, it's not a phobia. And second of all, like, it's very intentional. Like, this is like psychological vocabulary warfare that they are doing, like, where most people don't even realize it. Like, whether or not, like, most people are their little pawns, right? And they are taught to use these terms, homophobia, Islamophobia, whatever, Christian nationalist as a derogatory term. And they're kind of used to classify you with like this genuine, like, mental illness. Like, oh, he is a dissident, somebody who belongs in the outskirts of society. Like, he holds these very, radical beliefs that don't align with what we have here in America. And so it's like, it's very intentional and it's very, very evil.
And I think you're dead on that. It is really intentional. I don't want to cut you off, but
go ahead.
One of the things that I've been saying since Charlie Kirk got shot, so for a month now, it just became so evidently clear. It was one of those things. I probably believed this beforehand, but that was the moment that it became really clear for me. It is evil when they try and call you these things. Oh, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist, you're a white supremacist, like all these names that they want to list off and throw at you. They never define them.
No.
That was one of the things Charlie Kirk was so good at, was asking people to define them. But the reason became really clear to me when Charlie Kirk was shot. They call you these things so that they can kill you.
Oh, 100%.
It's justifying violence against you. The left is inherently violent. And so when they throw these terms at you, they're trying to justify violence against you. And I probably would have believed that before Charlie Kirk's assassination, but I would have believed it was a really, really small group that was trying to do that. Yeah. After his assassination, seeing, no exaggeration, hundreds of thousands of people celebrate his death, dance on his grave, and call for the death of other people who they felt were like him, really made it clear that they're calling you these things so that they can kill you. And I think that's a really good thing. I want to get your perspective. What was it like for you as a young man when you saw Charlie Kirk die?
Oh, it was infuriating. I was in school. I think I saw it like right at the end of our lunch period. They take our phones away every class. And so I kind of saw that he got shot. I saw a video that I texted my dad, kind of just like see if he had anything, like any inside scoop or anything like that. And then I just put my phone away. And I had orchestra class next. And I just remember like that whole class was all I could think about. It was infuriating. Charlie, he hadn't been pronounced dead yet, but Charlie was, first of all, super, super polite, right?
Mhm.
Very, very
Yeah.
Christian, even when coming against these honestly very vile people. He represented Christianity on the mainstream more than anybody else that had his size following. Like, he was so shameless about his faith. And you don't see that with a lot of conservatives who are like genuine Christians
Mhm.
out here saying really serious, genuine theological stuff. While at the same time having a huge, just like Republican establishment kind of following. And so he understood young people, he understood Christians, he understood young Christian conservative men, which is, a very rare thing nowadays.
Yeah.
And so when he was shot, I was really angry. Got my phone. I was watching the videos in the passing period, just kind of trying to follow up. And then at the end of my school day, after, having to deal with a bunch of crap the whole school day, find out that he's dead. And it's just like,
Mhm.
I couldn't even believe it at first because he was a moderate almost, like,
Yeah. Yep.
compared to now us, right? Like, he is a moderate, and I don't mean that as an insult to him at all. And so it's just like the way that he was just like, brutally murdered. He's got a family.
Mhm.
He understands young people like really nobody else does, and represents us like nobody else does. And he's gone, and it was very hard to comprehend. And that was kind of the moment where I'm like, okay, I'm not just gonna like hold the beliefs that I hold anymore. I'm going to go and be very, very, very aggressive about them in a very public way, and be completely unashamed about that.
I mean, and I think that's definitely what we need. It's certainly an unforgettable moment. I'm old enough to remember watching 9/11 happen, and that was kind of the cultural defining moment for millennials. For my generation, was watching 9/11 happen. It was that moment where you'll never forget. Like, I'll never forget where I was. The emotions, the feelings that came with that, and I really do think seeing Charlie Kirk die was that moment for a lot of like Gen Z, a lot of young guys your age. And I think the fruit of it so far, God willing, the fruit will continue this way, has been almost exactly like you said. Everybody I talk to who's younger than me, and even my age, who watched Charlie Kirk die, the takeaway has been, I want to be more bold in my faith and in my stances. That it's not been, I think the left, the violent side of the left, which is certainly a large portion of it, maybe even the majority, like their desire when things like this happen is that it'll shut us up and it'll quiet us down. But the inverse seems to be happening, where it's, no, you guys killed the moderate. You killed the guy who is very respectful and very kind. I'm going to be more bold now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be more brash. And so what do you think that looks like for you? What are kind of your goals moving forward, I guess, as a young man? What do you want to do?
Yeah, so I mean, I referenced this group of boys that I do a Bible study with, and we are hoping to kind of move past just being a Bible study. What I said to them on the first kind of meeting that we had was that we could have all the Bible studies in the world. This is what Christians have been doing for 100 years, the last 100 years in this country, is sitting around at a coffee shop doing a Bible study. We can't stop here. Now we have to go. And as you guys mature, we're going to start to do things out in the world. I mean, I was very inspired by Tanner Cartwright and his church and congregation. I don't know if you're familiar with the kind of stuff they do. I can't say, specify for legal reasons, but, they are very active in actually going out and doing things in their community to make the world a better place. And so that's very much an inspiration to me. And in the long term, I don't know. I mean, I have definitely very seriously thought about being a pastor one day. That would be kind of a goal, a dream for me. But yeah, I mean, I just want to be able to lead people to follow the same steps that Jesus made. And now that I'm following him, to kind of just be very bold, actually do things, because Christians will say so much stuff from the pulpit in our group chats on Twitter, whatever, in our Bible studies, all this talk about what we need to do or like what's wrong with the world. But very, very few Christians are actually going out there and doing active stuff. Currently, what I'm kind of working on, I started this the day after Charlie Kirk was killed, is I'm kind of working on a case against our school board and kind of just the LGBTQ agenda that they push. I went around our school that next morning, and I documented all of the pro-LGBTQ propaganda that's kind of on the walls and indoors. And I'm going to be attending either this month's school board meeting or next month's school board meeting to, just honestly just be a jerk to them and get in their face and say, hey, this is not acceptable anymore. And I'm going to bring those boys at my Bible study with me, and kind of just hope to inspire more people to do the same. We had something going to try and make that illegal. Actually, in our state, we made it illegal to hang a flag that's not a state flag, a school mascot, or our nation's flag from or city flag from government buildings, including schools. And then Bozeman, Montana, as well as Missoula, Montana, the two kind of liberal university towns in our state, made the pride flag our city flag, both of them through city council decisions. So like, if you literally if there was a way you could just look up, what is the city flag of Bozeman, Montana, you'd have our city flag and you'd have a pride flag. And I mean, it's just unreal, because this isn't even a liberal town. Like, it is. It's like 56. It went 56% for Harris, I think. But like, we have a pride flag as our city flag. And that's the way they now justify pushing a suicide, pedophile, rape cult to children in the school system, which is disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, wow. I hadn't heard about that with the city flag. I'm sad to say it doesn't surprise me at this point. We are in an outright culture war. And in many ways, it's not even a cold war anymore. Now it's a hot war.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I just want to encourage you, especially in being bold, taking those steps. I mean, you're doing amazing things. Keep going. Don't let that boldness wane. As far as for future steps, you were talking about, possibly looking into ministry. I think that's great. But one of the things that I just wanted to tell you, even as somebody in the ministry, is being a pastor is not the only way to be able to speak into the public sphere as well. So don't disqualify in your mind, the possibility of taking other routes as well. For too long in the church, this is kind of a pet hobby horse of mine, so I'm gonna get on my soapbox a little bit. For too long in the church, we've in many ways lessened the role of the pastor too much, but we've also propped it up too high, to where too many people feel like, well, I want to do something for the Lord, that means I got to go into ministry. And that's just fundamentally not true. If you want to do something for the Lord, it doesn't have to be ministry. If God calls you to ministry, man, God bless you. Give it your all. Go hard in the ministry. But it's not the only way. And so I guess I just wanted at least you to be able to hear that. That's not the only way that you can honor God, even in the public sphere of being a bold voice for truth. We do need a lot of good ministers. And so I don't want to discourage you from that, but I also, no one's going to tell you that. And so I at least want to be the one to tell you that there are other ways to honor God in that as well.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, really good advice. So yeah, I mean, I'm keeping my horizons open. I just want to do something that is really going to radically change the course of this nation, because that's what it needs.
Yes.
It needs radical change. And what that looks like quite yet is unclear, but young men want to hear this, and a lot of them want to say it. And I think often the consequences are too grave. So or in their minds, too grave. And so it's just kind of important. I think it's really great for them to be able to hear that other people hold the beliefs that they believe.
Absolutely. And I think being able to even just hear people being willing to actually talk about it encourages other people. I know it encourages me. If I had one encouragement for young men especially, is practice boldness now. Do the things like you're doing. Be willing to go and speak out at the school board. Be willing to organize, get a group of young guys together, like, let's actually do something. Practice that boldness now, because if you don't, it's so easy, especially if you get married and you have kids, you have a ton of responsibilities. It's so easy to allow those responsibilities to keep you quiet. Like I have bills to pay, I got to feed my kids. I got to feed my wife. I don't know if I should really be bold about this. You've just got more weight. But practice being bold, especially in your younger years. Get those muscles trained of willing to take risks, willing to go to a TPUSA, event and call out a demon worshiping Hindu,
Right.
to
Yeah.
repent and believe in Christ. Yeah, if you practice that boldness now, it will aid you so much as you get older. It'll become part of your character in these formative years,
Absolutely.
rather than trying to do it later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just hope that's a message that really like speaks to more young men. Because I mean, we're kind of at our age where there aren't no consequences, but it feels like there's no consequences. Obviously, still have to be careful, but
Yeah.
it's absolutely right. And so I mean, if you look at Jesus and his ministry, they're all very young men. That's who he brought with him, because those men honestly really didn't have much going for them. And so they were attracted to kind of this new radical idea. And that's kind of what I'd love to see in America today is young men who don't really have much, because young white Christian men honestly don't have much going for them right now. They feel outcast, downtrodden. Every time they go to history class, it's just like, here's what your ancestors did wrong. Here's why you should be ashamed to be white. Like, and so, all this stuff, and there's no outlet. And so I hope that, they hear these sorts of radical messages and they are inspired to radicalize themselves.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I know it seems radical now, but I mean, let me just say, any young guys watching, your ancestors were not evil. It's not evil to be white. Your ancestors were heroes. They were kings. They were knights. They literally settled the world. They took some of the most evil, the most difficult, the most broken places in the world and established incredible things. They were explorers that circumnavigated the globe, that sailed to unknown lands and decided, you know what, 90% of us are probably going to die, but that's a price we're willing to pay for future generations. And they went and laid it all on the line. Don't be ashamed of your ancestors. Don't be ashamed of who you are. Our culture right now is trying to shame especially young white Christian men. They're trying to shame you into being inactive. Don't buy it. Do not buy into the shame. Do not buy into the lies of our culture. Your ancestors were heroes of mythical status. The actual history of our nation, of the European nations even, are so insane that they make some of the greatest mythologies of history look almost normal. I mean, our people were incredible. Incredible, and I think we need to recapture that. And so don't be shamed. Don't buy into those lies.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just like we are descended. We are the people. We are able to say, like, there's nothing to be ashamed. Like you said, brought like risk to bring civilization to the end of the world. What about bring Christianity as well?
Yes.
Colonization was so key to Christianity. It is instrumental to what Christianity has done in this world. Instrumental to God's kingdom on earth, because it brought Christianity, it brought civilization to these places it never would have been. Were there bad things mixed in there? Yeah, of course. I mean, no movement is perfect. Like, I don't. At the end of the day, it's not that I don't care, but it's that doesn't make it bad. I don't point at Hernan Cortez and say what you want about the way that he treated certain villages and tribes. But at the end of the day, the product of what he did is a net positive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, were they maybe a little too violent here and there, right? It's like, well, I don't know. I mean, sure, that could probably be argued, but you look at what a lot of these guys encountered and the evils that were prevalent that no longer exist. We're coming up on Columbus Day.
No,
I love Christopher Columbus. Okay. I love Christopher Columbus. Absolute Giga Chad hero, right? I mean, and everybody's like, oh man, well, he committed genocide. But the one thing that no one ever wants to talk about is which tribe did he genocide? It was the Carib tribe. That was the tribe he genocided. So the history that a lot of people don't know is one of the ships, I don't remember which one. So we sailed in the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria. I cannot recall. I'll have to look it up later. I can't recall which one it was, but one of them was damaged and unseaworthy. So when they sailed back, Columbus had to leave one of his crews and the ship behind. And so they dismantled the ship and they built a fort. And the tribe that he had befriended there, the peaceful tribe that he had befriended, warned him and the people that were there. They're like, look, there's this Carib tribe and they're cannibals.
Hmm.
and they will attack, and your people aren't going to be here when you get back. And Columbus is like, oh, okay. He thought they were lying to try and get these Europeans to come in and destroy a rival tribe. Like, that was kind of his assumption. He
Right.
thought they were just exaggerating things. Well, Columbus returns, and they were right. This Carib tribe had wiped out his crew. They had cannibalized them. And so he begins to try and figure out, well, who is this tribe? They were a tribe that would regularly kidnap. This is very graphic, but they would kidnap women from other tribes, rape them so that they could eat their babies.
Yeah.
And Columbus, because his crew was murdered and because this was the practice that the Carib tribe used, he went in and annihilated them. And in fact, to this day, we derive the word cannibal from the word Carib.
Really interesting.
Yes. And so, we can bemoan, oh, well, why did he have to go in and wipe them all out? Yeah, was there maybe other things he could have done? Did he handle everything perfectly? I don't know. I think he did a great job personally, but other people can argue differently. But here's the fruit of it. When's the last time you encountered a cannibal?
Long time ago. Never.
Like, I've never encountered a cannibal in my life. That is eradicated from the world because of the work that men like Christopher Columbus did.
Yeah.
And so we stand on the shoulder of giants and want to bemoan how we got there.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And, I can't wait for Columbus Day in our history class. My teachers they're good people. They try, but they are also raging liberals. Actually, in that specific class. In most of the classes, they're just not good people. I've never heard that story of Christopher Columbus and kind of the stuff he does. But this conversation reminded me of about Columbus. It reminded me of a podcast I listened to. I think it was The Right Stuff. I don't know if you know them. They are.
Yeah, I've heard of it, yeah.
I think I want to say they're kind of out with Wilson in Idaho, but I'm not sure. And they had a guy on who wrote a book about Christopher Columbus called The Last Crusade or something.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just about how this man was a brilliant, mathematician. He apparently he was able to calculate the size of the American continent, north and south, based on water currents in the 1400s. That is amazing. That's an absurd scientific geographical feat. He was incredibly courageous, and he was a very, very devout Christian. He did all of this in the name of God. After he discovered the Americas, he understood that this is now a Christian mission. He did it as he was there to financially discover a route to India, but it became a very Christian, a religious thing for him. And he was this man who loved God with all of his heart.
Well, on that note, do you know, you've probably never heard this, do you know where the term Indian came from?
Well, what I've always been told is this, because he was looking for India and he landed.
Yeah, that's not actually where it came from, because during that time, India was actually called Hindustan.
Interesting. Okay.
That's what they called India.
Huh.
Indian derives from the word Columbus called them. I think it's something like the people of God, or because it's this beautiful word that he used to describe them. Basically, that they bear God's image. That these people bear God's image. But what you learn in school is, he was looking for India and he thought that they were Indians, and it's like, well, no, because the Spanish actually called India Hindustan. That wouldn't make any sense.
That's so. Is Indian then? Is it a Spanish word or?
It was the term he used. I don't know if it was directly Indian, but it sounds like Indian. And a lot of people, that's what they think he was trying to communicate, was that they were the people, they were bore God's image. He wasn't some monster. He adopted one of the children from the tribe as his heir.
Yeah, he didn't take.
Or not his heir, but he adopted him as a child.
Yeah, and he didn't take a single slave from the Native American tribes. Which, we just get blatantly lied to and told that he took slaves. It's just literally just a false statement. It's a false statement that they shamelessly look you dead in the eyes and say to you, to make you hate where you came from, make you hate this country, and make you silent through this kind of guilt and this fear, that they just want you to live in guilt and fear, as opposed to being bold and truthful.
Yep. Well, and before Columbus Day hits, just in preparation for that class, I think it's Michael Knowles has a great talk on Christopher Columbus. I think it's like a 30-minute video or something like that. It might even be a 40-minute video. So you should look that up before
I definitely
Columbus.
should take a look. Yeah.
So, well, I want to be respectful of your time. So I guess let me kind of move this a little bit more towards wrapping up. I don't want to take too much of your time. What do you feel like young men like yourself, you're wanting to get engaged, you're wanting to be active? What do you feel like you need from pastors, from the church? So I'm in a ministry role. Like, what is it guys like you are really needing there? And maybe it's not being met. Maybe it's not being, the church isn't necessarily doing well there, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I can only speak on the churches that I've been, the church that I go to, and Christianity as a whole. But I also don't want to make generalizations. I think for me, honestly, one of the biggest things that I just really honestly hate is modernity and style. We were talking about the balance of the three things a nation that make up a nation. Talk about like the three very important Christian things that a Christian has to balance is beauty, truth, and goodness. And beauty has been completely lost.
Yep.
Honestly, I think this has such a massive impact on young men when we go to church on Sunday and we're singing Sloppy Wet Kiss. Now my church doesn't sing that. But the idea, Sloppy Wet Kiss, instead of, some hymn written by Isaac Watts, some hymn written by some guy who fought in the Revolutionary War, a hymn written by an early church saint, singing the Psalms. And when you go to church, the building, it's, a strip mall or, and obviously it's still a house of God. And obviously not every church has the money to build a massive cathedral, but that's also not what I'm asking for. It's just like some attention to detail would be amazing. Just like, because it could be done cheaply. It can be. You don't need to pay for an architect. I don't know if you knew this, but the PCUSA way back before it had become totally cucked. And there's good churches within it, obviously, but they had a magazine catalog of architectural designs that you could just like go when they were planting a new church. That way they could keep costs low. And every one of those designs is a very beautiful thing. You don't need an architect. Just steal a thing from the catalog. And so I think what honestly a lot of young men yearn for is tradition. And unfortunately, they're kind of sacrificing theology for tradition. You kind of see this move to Eastern Orthodoxy and Roman Catholicism, which doesn't identify as much with American heritage. And so, yeah, I think honestly that would be such a big thing. And also, so emphasis on beauty, we'd love to see more from our leaders. And then also just like saying these things, not being afraid to engage with these kind of more radical ideas. It's not the size of the church that matters. It's the size of, it's like how strong the believers within that church are. And so I think a lot of the time ministers will sacrifice, like talking about certain things that need to be talked about in order to keep a large membership. And so just like addressing young men, like that's such a big thing. But even in our youth group, like our youth group is just like, it's very female focused. Like it is. It's we sing songs that, and it's been getting really, it's massively improved the last couple months. But you just get this idea of just like it doesn't feel right as a young man. It doesn't feel reverent, and it doesn't feel like you're worshiping God. And so I just love to see more of that. It's just tradition and reverence and just addressing young men and their problems, because we have a lot and we want to be heard and feel seen.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good word. And that's where, I've really been trying to encourage people to recapture the masculinity of Christianity. For too long, the church has become so feminized, and our entire focus is just on appeasing the church ladies.
Yeah.
We don't want to make anybody mad. We don't want to upset things, but Christianity is fundamentally a masculine religion. It really is, and if you focus on that, you won't lose the women. Like you'll still have the women, but we've sacrificed young men for the sake of, like you said, having a good sized church or good sized congregation. Yeah, I think that's a good word. And I just want to kind of close out with just a little bit of encouragement, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, of course.
I'd just say keep striving, keep pushing forward, keep trying to make those changes, be bold. You have biblical justification and biblical warrant to be bold. A lot of people will say, don't mix politics and religion. Well, read through the Bible. Politics and religion are always mixed.
Amen.
Always. There's no option. All legislation is either moral or immoral at its fundamental base. God literally has an entire book of the Bible that is a legal code. Like I think God cares about politics. And so don't buy into the cowardice of a lot of Christians to refrain from speaking boldly politically. Speak biblically, speak righteously, but also speak boldly. You know, one of the commands, I have it tattooed on my arm from my younger years, but it's from Joshua: be strong and courageous. It's just repeated over and over again in the book of Joshua. God's command to Joshua: be strong and courageous. And so that would be my advice: be strong and courageous. Don't buy into the feminized version of Christianity. Seek to establish a true muscular faith in yourself, and that can be hard. It can be hard because there aren't a lot of churches that do that. There aren't a lot of pastors that actually push that. But if you can find a church that's willing to do that, if you can find a pastor that maybe he's not quite as conservative as you, that's okay. As long as he's willing to stand in your corner and defend you
Amen.
Spiritually.
Yeah.
Seek that out. That is worth its weight in gold.
That's great.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts on any of this, man?
No, I mean, I think we covered just about everything. I mean, thank you so much for having me on, Reverend Hanson. It's,
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. If you're not already, go ahead and follow Jeremy Carl. We were talking a little bit before the stream about how after this, your following kind of actually blew up. Your account kind of blew up on X. And I think that's so cool. Yeah. But one of the things I got a kick out of, you said before you posted that video, your account was, what was it? You basically followed a European, was it a soccer team?
Yeah, a small English soccer club. It was pretty much just a fan account dedicated to that. So,
well, I think that's going to probably be the only thing that we've really disagreed on at this point. I think soccer is fake and gay. But
hey, well, don't worry. I'm going to a college football game right after this.
Good. Well, man, I pray God blesses you. I hope this stream was a blessing to everyone. Everyone that watched, that listened. If you're not already, go follow Jeremy. And man, I will certainly be praying for you. If you ever need anything, feel free to reach out, DM me. I'm more than happy to sit down and talk at any time if you need help with anything.
Thank you so much. It goes both ways.
Yeah. Well, don't log out yet. I'm gonna close out the stream here.
Perfect.
But just before you log out, don't jump out just yet. Cool. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I just want to say that my prayer for you is that the Lord would bless you, that he would keep you, and that he would make his face to shine upon you. Tomorrow is the Lord's Day. So go to church, worship Christ, stop making excuses. No excuses. There might be a couple excuses. If you're in the ER, I think it's okay. If your wife is delivering a baby, it's probably okay. I think that probably covers the only excuses. If you're not dying or having a child, you need to be in church tomorrow. So go worship God, partake of the means of grace.